3 weeks until the trade deadline, and after the last three videos that I made about different trade targets the Magic could be looking into, I received names in the comments of other guys the Magic could be targeting this trade deadline. Now, some of the names are not going to be available. Some of them we just can't trade for without putting a lot of names together. So, just to kind of have more of an understanding of what's possible during this trade deadline, I'm going to do a quick recap on the salary cap and what can and can't be done, as well as go through a lot of the names that people were recommending just so that we can see what we would need to give up in order to make a trade, at least one on one, like one team to one team. So we'll do that in just a moment. But first, from London, England, this is the Orlando Magic Nation, your source for all things Orlando Magic on YouTube. For Magic fans, by a Magic fan. I'm Edwin Valentine, and I want to thank you very much for clicking on this video and spending a little bit of time talking Magic with me. Got to do the normal YouTube things like share, drop a comment below on any other guy you think the Magic should be targeting, as well as if you want to do so, hit that subscribe so you don't miss out on any content that I produce. So, uh, trade deadlines coming up. That's going to be the big topic, and even in some of the videos of that are not Magic specific, that are more general NBA podcasts, the Magic have started to come up a little bit, mostly on just looking to dump a little bit of salary to get under the luxury tax. Which again, if you see my last three videos on different trade targets, that's just something that the Magic were going to do. So now it's kind of official in a weird way, but that was always going to be the case. So most of the trades that I was looking into in those last three videos were trying to get us under the luxury tax, not to save the owners any money. No offense, I don't care about that. That is not something that is a reality now. Owners aren't just going to blow money for no reason. So if we're not competitive, there's really no point in being over the luxury tax. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because it just becomes so onerous. Like it just becomes so difficult to continually be in the luxury tax, which is something we're going to be coming up real soon because we're going to get really, really expensive. So we already know that that's kind of what's important. And then the other thing that is important right now is we need sellers right now. We want to be a buyer. We want to get better as a team, but there aren't a lot of sellers because there's a lot of teams that are just right now kind of in limbo, and or they were really bad for the beginning of the season and now they're starting to play better. It's like the Clippers or even the Pelicans are playing better. The Brooklyn Nets are playing better. So all like the lower rung teams in the league right now are actually playing 500 ball or playing just much better than they had. So they're coalescing, or their young guys are starting to catch up to the speed of the game. And that just means there's less guys that might be available. Like Dallas might no longer be wanting to shed a bunch of salary or and try to tank so they can keep their pick. And the same thing with the Pelicans. They're saying that a bunch of their guys are not going to be available. So that's something that is also really, really important, obviously, when it comes to the trade deadline. We can have a bunch of sellers or a bunch of buyers, but if there's no sellers, then everybody's going to be sitting with all this cash in their pockets or in their hands, just waiting to spend on maybe there only ends up being three main trades that happened this year. So there's a lot of names that are out there right now, but if you're looking for the Magic to make a home run trade, I doubt they're going to be doing anything huge. They're likely going to be doing what has been reported recently of them trying to get under the luxury tax, and they're about $5 million over the luxury tax, 5.7, I believe, over the luxury tax at the moment. So they need to get under the luxury tax just so that they don't start the repeater tax. So you have to be in the repeater tax bracket, let's say, you have to be over the tax for 3 out of the last 4 years. So far the Magic haven't done so, but we're looking long term, and the Magic we're hoping are going to be good for the next few years, and that's why you need to make sure that we're likely going to be over the luxury tax the next few years while being competitive. And just with our big four salaries that we have on the team, that's just the reality of the situation. Next year, we're likely going to be a second apron team unless we get a bunch of minimum guys, which we haven't really done very often, but that's going to be our new reality. So again, I'm talking about things that we haven't really had to understand, like the aprons, because in the last few years that the aprons have been around, we haven't had to worry about the aprons. So the repeater tax is another one of those things. So we're going to go over that in just a second. But if we first start off with the team, or the team salaries, so we can kind of understand a bit more on what I'm talking about here. So to make trades, you have to be able to salary match, basically. And that's why in a lot of the trades that you see on my page in the different videos, you see there's like I kind of have a box or a screenshot of the approved trade through SpotTrack. And SpotTrack is the site that I use. It's the best. It has a lot of the trade restrictions. It has a bunch of information on there. So that's one I recommend if you're playing around and want to be a trade machine wizard. Do that on the SpotTrack website. But this is where also I'm getting these numbers here for the salaries. That's on SpotTrack. So if you to be able to make trades, you have to salary match. So when people talk about getting Giannis or getting not Kyrie, Trey, or getting Ja, or getting Lamelo, or any of these other big name guys, they're high salary guys, right? So you have to be able to match or get close to them. So AD right now, Anthony Davis is like at 50 something $1 million a year. So for us to get to matching, there's a more complicated bit on how much you have to match if you're over the apron. If you're not over, it ends up being a much more complicated thing. But let's just say you generally have to match salaries. So let's say we were going to do that. That's why in 2 videos ago, when I talked about Giannis and what it would take for us to get a Giannis, it would have to be one of our core 4 guys. And looking at Franz's salary, Desmond's salary, Jalen's salary, and Paolo's at 15 million, but his is it's called a poison pill provision, is why it's really hard to trade Paolo, because he is only $15 million. So you're like, oh, you could just throw him into any deal. But because he's making 41 million, or an estimated $41 million, as you see in the following year, for us, it counts as 15 million. For the team that's receiving him, counts as 41 million. So that ends up being a really weird trading thing. So that's why really the core 4 guys are not really on the table, unless Weltman's getting really frisky and he's going to try to sell high on Jalen, I guess, because AB is starting to blow up. I know that's been a big discussion in the fandom now as well, but that's something that should not happen during the regular season. If something like that were going to happen, that would have to be an off-season thing, because that would really affect the group dynamics, and I think that would be a horrible deal right now, let's say. So anyway, so those 4 you're not going to mess with. Now, again, if we're trying to get somebody like a Colin Sexton or a Malik Monk, to just name 2 guys that have been talked about a billion times from the Magic point of view, those guys make 18, $19 million. So okay, we can get to that, but we don't have a lot of guys making kind of I always call it the middle class salaries, right? So we got the high class salaries, those 4 up top, and then the ones after that are JI with $15 million guaranteed this year, then Wendell at 10 this year. As you see, next year Wendell jumps up to 18 million. So that's when it starts to get easier to trade him as well, because $10 million isn't a lot in the grand scheme of the NBA. Obviously, we would all love $10 million, but in the grand scheme of the NBA, $10 million isn't a lot. It's kind of like just a throw in some different deals. So that's why Wendell is kind of still tradable, because he's at $10 million this year. So theoretically, if the other team were willing to take on his long-term contract, then we could get somebody for that. But it's not likely that we would get somebody of consequence, or somebody that would really help us out for only about $10 million, right? So it just really depends on how much you're going to get, how much bang for your buck you're trying to get with the guy you're trying to take back in a deal. So that's why Wendell's there. Goga at 8 million, AB, he's still on his rookie deal. So it looks more and more that the $7 million he's getting paid this year, almost 8, and then the 10 million next year is a bargain for how he's been playing for the last 20 plus games. So we ain't trading AB, so that's another one that's kind of off the table. I would say Wendell and AB from the middle class are a bit more unlikely to be traded, or they're not going to be traded unless, again, Wendell, that would be pretty seismic if they did that. But if they're able to upgrade at center, that would be something that would be possible. If you watch my last video on centers and different options we might have at center, Wendell was thrown into a couple of those. Again, I'm making these different deals and I'm showing what needs to happen for us to make the money work. I don't include draft picks or don't really talk about draft picks because I don't really know how to value them. I don't think the GMs really know how to value them either, but it ends up becoming a kind of a guessing game or a discussion way deeper. And right now, the Magic don't really have that much draft capital, let's say first round picks to really play with. So I think that's the other wrinkle in a lot of these. If we're looking for big name guys, we don't really have like 4 first round picks to give away since we've already done that for Desmond. So that is another bit. So Tyus is probably the next guy here that if we had to guess on one player from the Magic that was going to be gone, it'll be Tyus. He makes 7 million. Even if the Magic do absolutely nothing else in the trade deadline, which would stink because I think we are looking for a bit more help from the bench. And I know AB likely will be going back to the bench. And if not, then Jalen would be coming off the bench. And that already would be a huge infusion of energy and infusion of talent into our bench unit, at least more. We always have untapped potential, is what I would say, from our bench. And now at least we would have more tapped potential in that way. With Mo's return as well, that he's going to definitely help our offense and he's going to take charges and all of that on defense as well for our second unit. So that's kind of something that if we have a B coming off the bench and he's playing the way he's been playing with Mo, then instantly there's a jolt to our bench unit. So it wouldn't hurt to have another scorer off the bench because obviously Tristan can contribute that way. Right now, he's been playing a little bit more off the dribble and not as just a spot up shooter, but he's been shooting pretty well so far this year. So Tristan, AB, Mo, if we can have another guy, a lot of us feel that we have Jace available. That is that microwave score, but apparently he's not ready for prime time for some reason. It feels like with this coaching staff. So if they're looking for someone who's a veteran presence, maybe on an expiring contract, then that would be something that the Magic could look to do to add to their bench unit as well. But even if we do nothing else, Tyus will likely be the one to go. And if not, it would be somebody a little bit higher. So it would be him or Goga or JI, because that gets us away from or under the luxury tax. Just one deal with that. And even if it's just a dump, basically a salary dump with some draft capital, a couple second rounders, then that gets us underneath. Then we'd be able to go into the buyout market, see who's available, and if not, we can always convert one of our two-way guys. So, or there's a bunch of different options after that, because then right now, as you see, we're it's 5.6 ish, let's say 5.6 million over the salary cap. If you subtract that 7 million, that adds an extra 1.4 ish, let's say, and you can get someone on the buyout market for under that amount. So that would keep you under the luxury tax and get you back up to the 14 player minimum for a team moving forward. So that Tyus is probably that guy. But if we need a sweetener, we also have Jett at 5.5 million since he's now an expiring contract. So a lot of teams love that expiring contract, especially if it's somebody who's selling. They would want not to take back long-term salary. Tyus and Jett, they're both on the last year of their deals. So it's something super easy. If they're trying to get off of money, then they can, that just those two right there make 12.5 million. You can get an impact player for that. Maybe not the biggest impact, or someone who's right now playing over their head and possibly could be just helpful at a smaller amount. but we'll see on that for there. And then we've got, if we just finish off that bit, Mo's not going to go anywhere. You couldn't trade him anyway because he has basically a no trade clause because he signed a 1 year deal with the bird rights that he already had with the team. So they can't trade him without his approval. So he ain't going anywhere. And then the last three are Tristan, Jace, and Noah. That I'd be surprised if we were to trade any of those guys because since we're going to get so expensive starting next year, we need to have guys who are playing on smaller deals and are contributing on smaller deals. So yeah, especially again, if you look at next year's column there, we only have if we include JI on there, we only have 11 guys signed, and we're basically already over the first apron for next year. So yikes! But that's what happens once you have young talent and once they start getting more expensive. That just is the way it is, right? So again, right now, if you look at the far right bit there, that we are 1.2 million under the first apron, so we're not a first apron team. So that also doesn't hurt us in the buyout market. So we can go after any buyout candidate, no matter how much they made this year so far. So that's going to be something that is not going to be a hindrance to us. It's really just going to be us getting under the luxury tax. And I, we, I'd be surprised if the Magic did not end up doing that, especially again, because it looks like we're going to be expensive for many years, and we just don't want to go into the repeater tax because billionaires, even though they're billionaires, they don't just give away their money for nothing, right? So to kind of just go over the salary cap as well. So as you see, the very first line in that column there, cap maximum, the salary cap, everything comes from that. So once that gets decided, then everything moves from there. So the salary cap is at $154.6 million. Now, then we calculate the salary floor off of that. Every team has to get to the salary floor with a 14-man roster. So that's something that we're never going to have to worry about. Even next year, just our first four guys basically get to the to get to the floor. So we don't got to worry about that anymore. What we do have to worry about is the tax line, which is again for this year is 187.8 or $0.9 million. So the first apron at 194.9 million, and the second apron, which is something that even as of next year, we probably will start flirting with already. And we have to understand all that happens and all that comes from being on the in the different apron era, right? So we're going to be clear of that this year. We don't have to worry about this year. But like I said, even with 3 or 4 roster spots open already for next year, we are going to be over the first apron already, and we're going to be really close to getting the second apron. So we're going to likely be bargain hunting a lot this off season to try to get some guys to come in to in the minimum range basically. So I think the big thing about the first apron is when you're trading with somebody, when you're in the first apron, you can't take any money back. So that's something that you just, if you, let's say, if we were already over the first apron and we wanted to get rid of Tyus's contract of $7 million, or because he wasn't playing well this year and we wanted to bring in somebody that made $8 million, we couldn't do that because we're a first apron team. We could only trade and make and basically take back less money. So that's that. For the second apron gets even harder. Basically, you can't aggregate salaries. So basically, if we wanted to trade both Tyus and Jett to somebody else and even take back less money, you couldn't do it because you can't aggregate salaries. You can't combine two salaries, two different guys, and come back and try to get back only one guy or even more guys. Either way, you can't. You, as the team that's sending out, you cannot collect two guys and bring and send them out at the same time. So that's where once we get into the aprons, it's really going to be difficult. So that's why we're not going to worry about it this year because we can't go into the first apron because we hard locked ourselves by signing Tyus to a $7 million deal instead of the 5.7, I believe, is what it was this past year. It's the mid level exception. So that's just where we are at this point. So we can't even go into the first apron if we wanted to improve the team by bringing in a salary of right now more than $1.2 million from what we're giving out. So if we traded Tyus the $7 million, we could not bring back someone who made more than 8.2 million dollars, right? So that's kind of how all of that will work moving forward. So that's a bit of an understanding of the salary cap. Kind of gives you an understanding on our guys and how much each one of them are making, and why I really will never add Franz, Desmond, Jalen, or Paolo into any deal, because they are in the upper class when it comes to salaries. And really, they unless we're going big game hunting and trying to get one of those big names, they wouldn't be included because they make too much money, and it's unlikely the other team would want to either take on that money or just we wouldn't want to give up these guys because they're too good. So we wouldn't want to do that. So that's why really we start mostly talking about I talk once in a while about Goga because we know we need a backup that would be able to fill in for Wendell. So that's why I wouldn't get rid of Goga. And so that's maybe just me and my Goga colored glasses, that I don't really offer him up very often because his salary is kind of the in between of the middle class. But that's why I really mostly talk about JI, Tyus, and Jett as the salary going out. JI's salary is 15 million guaranteed this year, but if you look at next year's, his deal, it says 14.5 million, but as you can see, it's a bit shaded. It's not as dark, and that's because it's not fully guaranteed at 14.5 million dollars. It's only guaranteed at 8, I believe. Yeah, it's only guaranteed at $8 million. So if somebody were to trade for him, then uh, they could release him, but then they have to pay him that 8 million. But if not, then either way, then they could yeah, it doesn't become fully guaranteed unless he reaches a certain number of games played, and there's a bunch of other different things within his contract. So let's just say that they could be creative if somebody were to take him on. Now, again, if we're trying to get off of that salary, likely the other team is going to be like, cool, we take him, no problem, but you're going to have to pay up, and then that's when we would have to give up a pick swap in 2031 or something like that. Or we'd have to do something draft capital wise. So if they're willing to take some second rounders, we got plenty of second rounders. It's just a first round capital that we really don't have that much to mess around with. So either way, so that's kind of an understanding of what I talk about, or why I don't put some players in, like Tristan, Jason, Noah. Normally they don't make enough really to be added into some of these different deals. So that's why, and Mo can't be traded. So that's why those four at the bottom don't really get talked about. And that's why the four at the top don't really get talked about. So it's really our middle class are the ones that we can really play with to be able to at least add to our bench, because that's really what we need most. I know some people are talking about we need to upgrade at center, which is fair enough. And if we do, there are options. Go check out my last video. I have one in here as well, one or two, I think, in this video as well, that will be options and possibilities, and I'll show you the framework of what could be done if it's just a one-to-one trade deal. We could always add a third team or a fourth team, then it starts getting way more complicated. But if we were just doing one-to-one trades and making it nice and easy in that way, I have a few that I can show you. So one of the names a few people started talking about was Ayo from Chicago, the Sumu. So I don't really. There's pros and cons to every deal, of course. For us, this is a boon. Like, it would be great for us to have him just attacking off the bench, basically, and we can have now. AB doesn't have to be the on-ball creator, like I've mentioned before. AB has exploded. Obviously, he's somebody that everyone's talking about on all the different NBA podcasts. He's becoming a name for. He's making a name for himself right now. So that doesn't mean all of a sudden I want him being the initiator and the primary ball handler in any one of our units. I've talked about it before. He should just be what he has been, a 3/D. He's just been that guy that was taking threes. He's hitting his threes, and with a better frequency now, slashing to the basket, dunking on four different players at one time, as well as just playing that D. That's what we really need from him. So I don't really want him to be the point guard. So if we were to add somebody like Ayo, that'd be wonderful. Now, in this deal, I'm trying to do the two things like I talked about, getting under the tax and bettering the team. And that's why I added JI instead of him. Now, again, are the Bulls going to be sellers? We don't know. Like they've kind of gone hot and cold throughout the year, and maybe they're like, no, we want to win 41 games like we always win and play in the play-in tournament, and that's what it is. And we don't want to do anything other than that because they have so many guys on expiring contracts that you're wondering what are they doing? The third biggest market in the U.S. and they're still messing around with like if they're if they're a small market team or they have no money. It's really weird. Anyway, in this deal, I include JI. The deal could also be done with just Tyus, so it doesn't need to be JI. I just being greedy in this situation here so that we're able to not only get AO, we're also able to get under the tax, as you see, by 1.9 million. And we're still under the first apron because, again, we can't be a first apron team. That is just what it is. So that's why this one is now the positive, of course, is we get AO. There really isn't a downside in this deal. Again, if we're giving up Tyus anyway, if we were to just give up Tyus for Ayo, again, as you see, 7 million versus 7.5 million, then we're adding we're adding $500,000. So again, the team is better, and if the ownership is willing to start the clock on the repeater tax, then let's go for it. Let's do it. Tyus for Ayo. Why would Chicago do that? That's going to be a lot of my negatives to a lot of these deals. Is people were like, we should take this player, and I'm like, yeah, why would that other team do that? First of all, they're not selling, but even then, I could show you the framework on what it would take, but it doesn't make sense. And again, we don't have 5, 6 draft picks to give away unless it's all second rounders. We don't have that much to give away to really entice the other team to be willing to get rid of such a good player. Now, AO is a mid-level player, so if Chicago were to ask for a first rounder, I think that would be a bit greedy. But if they were to be willing to take 2 second rounders, 3 second rounders, I don't know, I'd be willing to do that. The only issue, again, with the only other negative with AO is what is he going to be looking for with a contract moving forward? Because again, we're going to be real expensive, real expensive. So if he's looking for $10 million a year, if he's looking for $15 million a year coming up, that might be a little too rich for our blood. So this might be a rental, and that's good for me, but we'll have to see what the front office would decide. Now, another name that's been talked about a lot. We've heard Tyus Jones before this year, and that hasn't gone super duper well. We talked about Malik Monk a lot. There's been Colin Sexton talk a lot, and then there's Anfernee Simons. Now, he's playing really well for Boston recently. So again, Boston, maybe we were hoping that Boston would be a seller at the beginning of the season, but they're now the number 2 seed or 3 seed. They're flip-flopping a bit, New York and them right now. So either way, they're likely not going to be sellers, even though they're a team that would become a repeater tax team unless they get under the salary, unless they get under the luxury tax. So they're likely going to sell off someone. That might be Sam Hauser. That might be Anfernee Simons. It might be someone that they're going to have to get off of if they want to get under the tax to save some money. Now, Anfernee Simons was the candidate everybody thought about. Like they got him just to get off of Holiday's contract for the extra years, and then they were going to flip him. Right? That was always the discussion about Anfernee Simons. So people were wondering maybe we can sneak into that. He makes $27 million. And like I mentioned, you have to salary match, right? When it comes to making deals. And it's just too rich for our blood again to talk about. Because even as you see, using JI, Tyus, and Jett, and like I would have to add even if I didn't, I would have to use, let's say, JI and Wendell. That would get me to 25-ish million. Then if I add Tyus, that'd be too much. So then I would have to go down to like a Jace or a Noah, and those are guys we don't really want to play with. So trying to give away our the 3 assets that seem like they would be trade candidates only gets the money even, basically. So 3-for-1 for Anfernee Simons. Plus, then that would really be now -2 spots. So the Magic would only have 12 guys under contract. So then we would have to sign 2 other guys with about $1 million left over, as you see here on the cap space. Not going to happen. Just can't happen. So there is no trade for Anfernee Simons, basically. Again, yeah, unless we're willing to put in one of our bigger contracts. But again, then Boston is not going to want to take on more money. So if we were to add Jalen's 35 million, now they're taking on too much money, right? So again, it has to be equal and it all has to make sense. So we're definitely not going to be in the Anfernee Simons sweepstakes. Now, another thing about him is that well, not about him in general necessarily, but just he's also on an expiring contract. So what is he going to be worth next year? And I think that's the interesting crunch that's going to happen with some of the middle class is that they're like, he's not going to make $27 million again. Like, I don't think not per year. So with the new deal and the way the aprons are and everybody trying to squeeze every last dollar off of some of these mid-level contracts, he makes way too much money for what he provides, which is scoring, and he does a good job at that. But $27 million worth ain't going to cut it in the NBA moving forward. So he's likely going to end up taking a pay cut. So he better enjoy this money while he's got it, let's say. So now looking at a team that they're never going to, I would say, give up players, but definitely they would be a team that if you see that they're trying to be calculated with their transition to a different phase in their life cycle of competing, is the Golden State Warriors. So I was looking at some of their players. They have Buddy Hield, who used to be a sharpshooter. This year, he hasn't played very well, and he's kind of buried in their bench now. So that might be a cheaper option, even though he's not very, very cheap. But I was looking at Moses Moody as a player that maybe the Magic would be able to get. So this deal, because of them being in the aprons, and then it starts again to get complicated, then we had to add a third team. So I added the Nets into it because the Nets are at barely the salary cap floor. So they are able to take on as much money. But again, you're going to have to pay them to be useful when it comes to making a trade. So that's going to be something that we'll just have to be willing to do. So in this one, again, I was able to offload 2 of our contracts that probably we would love to use as assets, JI and Jett going to the Nets. The Nets send Daron Sharp to the Warriors. They're needing a center of some sort. And I don't know if he's a upgrade necessarily, but I just, threw him in there just so that they had somebody, they had a center. So it made it look more realistic, but I doubt they would want this package, and we would end up with Moses Moody. So you see, $11 million. So it actually would save us because I offloaded both JI and Jett. We end up going under the luxury tax. Again, we're at $3 million under the luxury tax. We would have to have a buyout candidate, like I said, or we would need to sign a free agent to get us back up to the 14-player minimum in this case, because we offloaded 2 players, only brought back 1. We're currently at 14, which is the minimum. So that's why we did that. And we would definitely be able to do that with $3 million under the salary cap to bring in a player prorated for the rest of the year, his salary. Bing bang boom, we would be all good in this respect here. So I think we have and this would be a pretty good trade for us. Obviously, again, what is the purpose for the Warriors, especially losing Moody, who plays pretty good defense, and as well as shoots about 37% from 3. I don't really see them doing that deal either. But again, we're just doing frameworks of different ideas on things. A big name that I've seen recently as well is Naji Marshall, right? So Naji Marshall from Dallas. That's again another team that looked to be totally out of it and in the tank mode and doing all of that. And then they were playing much better. Cooper Flag was playing good. Everything was progressing a bit. Then AD goes down again. And then now Cooper Flag is out. I don't know how long he's going to be out. So maybe they're going to tank in the end because I've done a couple trades. I did a trade for Daniel Gafford. He's now also injured. So they're just kind of having a season from hell. Now, this is a good year for them to do that because this year year they own their draft pick. So this is the last year for a while they'll have their draft pick. So or at least control over their draft pick solely so they can do whatever they want. So this is likely going to be the rest of their year. They're likely going to bring back Kyrie, play a little bit, but not that much. Either way, Naji Marshall, if we were to try to poach somebody and Gafford that ends up not being somebody, we could look at Naji Marshall as well. Now he's a small forward. He can play a little bit of everything. They've had no point guard for a lot of their season when they're not playing them hard for whatever reason. So Marshall could be an option of a ball handler. He's a small forward. Like he only makes $9 million, so it wouldn't be that much. And again, if we were to just do a deal at all to try to get him, then because they're also Dallas is also over the first apron. Again, what did I say? They can't take back any money, right? So that's why I did a deal, like a kind of an easy deal here, giving them Goga because they have Lively out. If they end up getting off of Gafford or any of that, either way, they're not going to do this trade. But I just wanted you to see again what it would take. So again, they can't take back any more money. So theoretically, we could do Tyus, right? But again, we couldn't do Tyus. Like theoretically, you would think that we could do Tyus. How about that? But again, what I talk about now, we are not able to do that part of the deal because we can only go up over the amount that we currently have on salary by $1.2 million. Tyus makes 7. This Marshall makes 9. That's $2 million. So we can't do that deal if it was just a 1-for-1, right? So again, that's where all this fun ends up happening for the GM. So we're like, oh, let's just do Marshall and get rid of this person. Like it's great to say, but there's a lot of little rules along the way, right? So if we look at this deal, we're still over the tax for bringing in Marshall, who can't really shoot. He does help the defense, from my understanding, as he's pretty good on defense. So that is something that we could do. But again, now we're just $500,000 under the first apron, and I don't know. It just doesn't feel like we should go into that realm unless we're getting a guy who's really, really going to help us out, and he doesn't really fill a lot of the boxes that we need, which of course is shooting and I would say rebounding more than anything, and our defense, of course. But I think our defense will be fine once we have a bit more energy, and that's coming in the form of Mo, and then Jalen will be back, and for however many games we have Jalen and Mo, hopefully we'll be able to stay healthy the rest of this year as well. So that'll really help us out when it comes to the energy. Now, someone was like, why don't we just, like we need a center. They saw the centers video and they're like, why don't we just get Kel'el Ware? I was like, oh, sure. It's just like anybody saying, oh, how about we just go get Anthony Black? Like, oh, sure. A young guy who's performing pretty well. We'll just take him off that team. Bing, bang, boom. We're all good, right? Done. Like I'm showing you what it would take. It would really take nothing because he wasn't drafted all that high. So his salary is only at $4.4 million, and it would take, he makes less than Jett, right? So it's not even that it would take a whole lot to get him. It's just Dallas, why would Miami do that? Now, Miami is always looking for big fish, so maybe they need to get rid of his salary for some reason to be able to package a bunch of other assets to be able to get a Giannis, a Ja Morant, or any of these other people. Maybe we sneak in. We could be a third team part of the deal, or for whatever reason, if we were able to get him, then of course that would be incredible. And most of the trades that I do are mostly kind of like possible, in the realm of possibility. Obviously, we're hoping the other team has a brain fart on some of them, but normally that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to do more logical ones where the teams would, be wanting to trade off of their player, or, maybe again, I would do the framework of the money, but then we give a bunch of draft picks again, what we have to offer, and then maybe that'll be the sweetener that makes some of the deals work. But this one I don't see Miami doing for any reason, but this is what it would look like. We couldn't really even get under the salary cap with that, unless again we gave up JI for Kel'el, and for some reason they again are doing a salary dump so they can do something bigger. That would be the only reason to do that. But if I did this deal, we're still over the tax, and we've done we've picked up a great player and hopefully somebody who can stay healthy and rebound, and he can shoot threes. So Kel'el Ware can shoot threes and rebound about 10 a game as well. So we would love that. That would be ideal, but it's unlikely that Miami would do such a thing. Someone else mentioned Naz Reid from the center position. Now, Naz Reid is he makes a little bit too much money for what he is. Now, a six man of the year, obviously, so he's coming off big production, right? So that's not something that I want to try to take lightly. But he's is he a $21.5 million a year player? I don't know. Like that's partially why I would say Minnesota is so expensive because they've paid a few of their players probably a little bit too much. Now, for us to even do a trade, let's say again for these purposes here, um, this would require, because they're again over the apron, so it would be JI and Jett. That gets us to about 20.5 million, and then they're giving up 21.5, so they would end up in a positive, and we would get a little bit more expensive. Now again, it's legal, it's legit that we can make that work. Again, we're getting rid of two players, getting one player back, and we only have $200,000 left to sign another player to be able to reach the minimum amount of players we have to have, right? So unlikely a trade like this would happen. And again, they can't take back any more money, so and we only can go over by $1.2 million from what we have now. So again, this is really the only way that a trade could work with Minnesota to get Naz Reid. Does he make us better? Like, does he end up playing backup center? Does he wouldn't start, I wouldn't say. Does he play backup center? So now what is Mo doing? Naz Reid isn't that great of a defender. Neither is Mo necessarily. So we would have to be outscoring teams, and that would change our identity, which is fine as long as it actually works and brings us a championship or gets us to conference finals and finals. Then it is what it is. But I don't know if that's something that we would be willing to do, as well as Minnesota. Why would Minnesota do this? We would again be giving up two expiring contracts, or two contracts that in JI's world it's not a guaranteed contract moving forward, to now get back a guy who has 4 more years at $100 million. So again, with how expensive we're getting, to have guys at $20 million with the salaries we will have next year, it's just going to be way too much and very unlikely for us to do it. But it's possible, and I showed you how we could do it. Now, a name that I didn't talk about, and a name that no one mentioned, but I thought would be an interesting one, because someone in the comments said that we don't need somebody who's super athletic as a center, just somebody who's a big body who would be able to rebound and box out and all of that. And there was a bunch of names I looked out, and I thought, I would say this would probably be a nice, an interesting option at backup center, which is what he's normally played most of his career. Not most of his career, but a lot of his career now. Jusuf Nurkic. Utah's looking to tank. They're being tankerific recently, so losing by 55 points at home. So maybe we can look at something like this. Now, Jusuf Nurkic only makes 19, well, only makes, my goodness, only has $19 million left in this contract. His contract expires after this year. If we were to give up Tyus and JI, 22 million, they're also under they're under the salary cap, so they're not even over the salary cap, worrying about tax or any of that stuff. So they'd be able to take on that money no problem. In this version, I don't really try to get under the tax, because now we're doing we have Jusuf Nurkic now on there, so that's not a bad, let's say, offensive and rebounding option as a big man. Again, he's a bit slower, so when it comes to defense off of our bench, that would real suffer, because then again, what is Mo going to be doing? Is Mo going to end up being power forward? Like, the defense on our bench unit would not be great, but maybe we'd be able to outscore teams on our defensive unit. So maybe that's a possibility at least, and that was what I threw it out there as a possibility. Again, it hurts our 3-point shooting. It hurts, well, again, if you're looking at the two guys that we're trying to give up, they're not shooting all that well. But either way, I think it's a possibility, and it's something to think about, especially for an expiring contract. Where I think the Magic would like to have either an expiring contract or something that's kind of short money so that they can kind of figure out certain parts of their salary for next year, or they could be signing some long-term guys just so that they are able to kind of know how much wiggle room they have to offer Mo money next summer coming up in 2026, because I'm assuming they would like to have Mo back because he is one of the heart and souls of this team. And what do you offer him? So as they offered him $11 million for that 1 year, just to kind of pay him up front, let's say, because it was a 2 year deal at $22 million, and then with the player or with a team option in that second year, that's why they declined that option. And because he was injured, they offered him $5 million this year. So do they make right next year and do something big for him? Or again, as you see, we're not gonna really have a lot of money to really just be giving it out. So he's earned it. He's done a lot of really great things for the Magic, but I don't know if Mo's going to be able to make 15, $60 million next year. So that's going to be something that if he's able to make more money elsewhere, that's a summer problem. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, just wanted to give you guys a little understanding on that. So really, those are the different options, and those have been just to give everybody an understanding of when they say like, oh, let's get this guy. Just I wanted to give a little bit more context on the rules on why sometimes they just can't happen, or the limited amount of resources the Magic have now after going all in for Desmond and giving up so much draft capital, and also going in and getting Noah. Like it's kind of a sneaky thing, but well, there's a couple transactions that have started to really hamstring the Magic in general. It was the Desmond trade, but FTP, we're very happy that we have Desmond. That's super great, and we're very excited. Another one of the deals is how many second round picks we were really giving up for Noah to get Noah. Now that's something that was really there was a couple picks last year, so we would have had another low cost salary that could maybe be contributing to the team right now. So that could be possible. We see how well Noah's played in certain stints when he's been able to play. So maybe that's a possibility. Even Noah starting for us has been really a good bang for our buck for $1.2 million that we're paying him. But that again, that there was a lot of draft capital that we gave up in that one. And the third deal is how much we gave Tyus. If we were able to give him the 5.7 million instead of giving him 7 million, then we would have not been hard capped at the first apron, and then we could have done a deal that would have been more than the $1.2 million that we can give up now, and then that would have really helped us in giving us more options and different optionality to be able to better the team for a hopefully very deep playoff run. So that's kind of it, really. So I'll likely do a couple more videos when it comes to draft possibilities. I might start doing, if I'm able to have a little bit more time, I'll be able to do some more headlines on other players, just so that, but with a Magic spin, so that we understand why either we can't get involved in some of these trade deals, or how that will really affect the Magic in the long run. So hopefully it made a bit more sense when it comes to the salary cap and why we can and can't do stuff, and which players can be included or should be included from our middle class versus our lower class and our high class salaries. That doesn't sound great, but you know what I mean when it comes to the salaries. And yeah, so that's where we are on this. Hopefully it made more sense. Let me know in the comments if it didn't make as much sense. I could give it another shot in the next video. But as always, do the normal YouTube things, hit that like, share this video, drop a comment below on other names of players that you'd like to see the Magic target. In you don't really hear the Magic rumored a lot because they have a pretty tight-lipped front office, so you're not going to hear the Magic are interested in this player normally. So anything that happens might just be like, whoop, popped up just like the Desmond Bane trade happened. So the Magic are tight-lipped, so we're not going to hear a lot of drip and drab. So it might just have to be a reaction video that I'll come up with whenever the trade actually happens. But at the minimum, they're going to get under the tax most likely. So that likely means that Tyus will be gone off the team, and that opens up some stuff for some time, hopefully for Jace, who could play alongside AB a little bit on the off the bench, or again off with Jalen. So we shall see. So again, like, share, hit that subscribe if you're one to do so. Or we're trying to get to 300. And I was going to say 300 million subscribers. That'd be great. But just 300 subscribers by the end of the season. I really appreciate you for spending time and clicking on this video and spending a little bit of time talking Magic with me. I hope you're having a great day.